The last thing I ever wanted to say. I couldn't stand it anymore. Those were Stevie Nicks' words, quiet but sharp like a knife, when someone finally asked her about Lindsey Buckingham again. After years of silence, years of rumors, and years of pain buried beneath gold records and standing ovations, she finally said what she'd kept locked away. It didn't begin like this. In the early 70s, Stevie and Lindsey were two dreamers in love, singing harmonies in a small apartment, eating canned food, hoping for a break. And then, it came. Fleetwood Mac picked them up. The band became a rocket ship. But the closer they got to the stars, the more they burned each other up. On stage, they looked like a dream. Off stage, it was war. Stevie tried to hide it. Her voice soared with Lindsey's guitar, but inside, she was slowly breaking. And when Fleetwood Mac released Rumors, every note felt like a cry for help. The songs told the truth. They were fighting, breaking up, hurting each other. And yet, somehow, they were also making music that would live forever. For years, Stevie said nothing. She stayed quiet while fans speculated. She gave polite interviews, spoke kindly of Lindsey in public. But behind closed doors, something darker had taken root. Resentment, fear, and maybe a sadness she could never quite escape. Then, in 2018, it exploded. Lindsey was fired from Fleetwood Mac. Just like that. After decades of playing together, decades of history, he was out. And Stevie? Many said she was behind it. Some blamed her. Others defended her. But she never gave a full answer, until now. I didn't want it to come to that, she said. But he left me no choice. So what happened behind the scenes? Why did Stevie finally break her silence? And what was so painful that she felt she could never speak of it, until the age of 76? That's the story no one expected her to tell. And it's only just beginning. Love, power, and control. Back in the days before fame, Stevie and Lindsey were inseparable. They sang together, wrote songs in the dark, and lived like two halves of one dream. But something started to change when the fame came knocking. Stevie wanted freedom. Lindsey wanted control. Even during the making of Rumors, the love had already crumbled. Lindsey was writing biting songs like Go Your Own Way. Stevie, in turn, poured her heart into Dreams. It was a breakup album, except the band had to keep touring, smiling, and pretending things were fine. Behind closed doors, they fought constantly. Friends saw Stevie crying. Others saw Lindsey lashing out. Stevie later said that she felt cornered, trapped in a dynamic where she couldn't speak her mind without it turning into an argument. I was never allowed to be the boss of my own world, she said. And yet, somehow, they kept going. Decade after decade. Album after album. Even during the solo years, they circled back to each other. On stage, their chemistry was electric. Fans loved the tension, the passion, the old flame they never quite put out. But inside, Stevie said, that fire was toxic. The final straw came during a Fleetwood Mac performance at a charity event. Stevie felt humiliated by Lindsey's behavior, mocking her dance moves, rolling his eyes behind her back, laughing at her on stage. I saw it all. And I decided right then, I was done. The next morning, she called Mick Fleetwood. She gave the band an ultimatum. It's him or me. And that's when Fleetwood Mac fired Lindsey. No one knew it then, but it was the end of an era. The most iconic musical duo in rock history, torn apart forever. But Stevie still wasn't ready to talk about what led to that moment. She stayed silent for years. Until now. He never forgave me. Lindsey Buckingham didn't take the news well. He said he was blindsided. One day, he was rehearsing for another tour. The next, he was out. Gone. Just a phone call. No warning. And deep down, Stevie knew it would hurt him. But what no one understood, what she kept hidden, was the years of emotional weight behind her decision. This wasn't about a single moment on stage. This was about everything that had built up since the 1970s. He never forgave me for choosing the band over him, she said softly. There had been a moment in the early days when they could have walked away together. Before Rumors, before the world knew their names. But Stevie made a choice. She wanted the band, the music, the dream. Lindsey wanted her. He never got over that. Stevie said the anger seeped into everything they did. In rehearsals, in writing sessions, on stage. And though he never hit her, she described an emotional control that left her feeling like she had to walk on eggshells. Sometimes the wounds aren't visible, she explained. But they hurt just as much. When Lindsey went solo, he said he needed to escape the drama. But every time Fleetwood Mac called him back, he came running. And every time, the tension with Stevie returned. There was a moment in 2013 that Stevie now calls the last real chance. She and Lindsey performed at a tribute show. They smiled. They hugged. Fans thought maybe, just maybe, they had made peace. But backstage, Stevie said, the cracks were still there. He looked at me like I owed him something. Like I should apologize for becoming who I am. She said she couldn't live like that anymore. So when she finally asked the band to choose, it wasn't out of revenge. It was out of survival. He wasn't just hurting me. He was hurting the whole band. For years, Stevie carried the guilt in silence. But when Lindsey later had heart surgery, she wrote him a letter. She wished him well. She told him she was praying for his recovery. He never responded. He's still angry. And maybe he always will be, she said. But at 76, Stevie has made peace with her choices. Because sometimes, silence isn't peace, it's pressure. And now, she's finally free to speak. But the story doesn't end there. Because what happened after Lindsey left sent shockwaves through Fleetwood Mac, and nearly broke Stevie once again. The price of peace. When Lindsey left, Fleetwood Mac had to rebuild, fast. They brought in Mike Campbell from Tom Petty's Heartbreakers and Neil Finn from Crowded House. Both were talented. Both were professional. But something was missing. The fire. The danger. The unpredictable electricity of Stevie and Lindsey. Stevie tried to push forward. She told herself the band was stronger without the fighting. She smiled during interviews. She said they were having more fun. But behind the scenes, she was grieving. I didn't just lose a bandmate, she said. I lost someone I'd known most of my life. Even after everything, the fights, the betrayal, the silence, part of her still remembered the boy who carried her guitar up the stairs. The boy who told her she could be a star. Now, he was gone. And she was left with a band that felt quieter, safer, but emptier. Mick Fleetwood admitted it too. We lost some magic, he said in an interview. But there was no going back. Stevie started writing again. She poured her feelings into new lyrics. Songs about letting go, about walking away from something that once defined her. At night, she'd listen to old demos. She'd hear their young voices harmonizing. And sometimes, she said, she cried. Because the truth is, when you've built your life beside someone, even walking away doesn't erase the memories. He'll always be part of my story, she said. But I couldn't carry that weight anymore. And then, something unexpected happened. Lindsey started giving interviews. He said Stevie tanked the band's legacy. He said she was dishonest about the past. And once again, their feud was back in the headlines. But this time, Stevie didn't stay silent. She was done pretending. She had one more chapter to share, the one that shocked even the closest fans. Because there was a moment, just one, when she thought about bringing Lindsey back. But what changed her mind? And what did Lindsey say in private that Stevie never revealed? The answer would change everything. The letter she never sent. In the quiet of her California home, Stevie Nicks once sat down to write Lindsey a letter. It wasn't for the press. It wasn't for the fans. It was just for him. She wanted to explain, not to defend her actions, but to tell the truth from her side. She wrote about the early days, the love, the magic, and the heartbreak. She wrote about the weight she carried for years, about how the music saved them, but also kept them trapped. And most importantly, she wrote about forgiveness. But she never sent the letter. I realized, she said, that it wasn't about him anymore. It was about me letting go. Stevie had always believed in the healing power of words, but this time, the healing didn't come from reconciliation, it came from release. She folded the letter, tucked it away in a drawer, and walked outside into the sunlight. By then, she had already made her peace with the band, with the past, and even with herself. But there was one last thing she had to do, something that would surprise even the closest people in her life. Because Stevie Nicks wasn't done telling her story. She was about to write a song that would reveal it all. And this time, the world would hear every word.